Another episode of Empower Online then, guys, and the second one for 2026. And this time we are joined by James Devine from MKG North Dublin. How are we doing, James? All good?
All good, all good, all good. It's a happy Wednesday.
Yeah, it's a beautiful Wednesday, isn't it? Thank you for coming on. And as always, we will start at the beginning and say, why did you get started in martial arts? How did you get started in martial arts? And how has your kind of journey progressed to being the head coach of MKG North Dublin now?
Oh, that's a lot. How long do you have? Um, um, so I got into the martial arts, not necessarily because I think a lot of stories and whatnot is that people start because of they've been bullied, etc. I had an excessive amount of energy when I was younger.
Okay.
Still do, but it's got a little bit less since I got a bit older. But I have so I kind of found that along with some issues I had in school with regard to learning, reading, and writing, kind of made things a
Mhm.
little bit kind of frustrating. So my parents decided, well, we need to find something for him to do. So they put me into a judo class,
Cool.
and I got on the mat with the local judo school here, which is still going in Lusk, and loved it. Loved rolling around, loved being thrown on the floor, loved the whole lot of it, loved everything about it. Like, was super, super, super excited about it all. And the instructor turned around and said at the end of it, "Do you enjoy it?" And I went, "Yes." And I went, Sensei Jack Dennis, and I went, and he went, "That's fine." He said, "If you want to continue training, I don't want to hear of any trouble in school anymore." So I went, "Okay." Now, I'm not going to say I was perfect. Sorry, Jack, but I definitely focused my energy more on the mat than I did outside of the classroom. So, or
Perfect.
outside
Okay,
of the
so it just
classroom.
took
So
that initial class then to kind of go, oh, okay, I need to put my focus in
yeah, it
there.
was just like it was just such a transformational thing for me. Just to kind of like suddenly go, what? Like, well, I was 10, so
Mm,
40 years ago. So like it kind of like automatically just kind of changed it, and then within that motion then as well of being with the Lust Judo Can, then watching Sensei Jack, watching some of the other coaches in that train, I also kind of went, oh, I'd like to do that someday too. I'd
yeah, of
like to
course.
be able to teach what I'm doing as well. So, so then as time went on into my teens, I went off and did some more traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu, did some Wing Chun, boxing, did a couple of different types of things, moved around a little bit and kind of tried to find my kind of niche in certain things. And it took a little bit of time. And then I got all the books and read all the books, etc. Like Bruce Lee and everything else, and I'd given them away to somebody just because they were interested in it, and I gave them the whole like seven or eight, the Tao, Jeet Kune Do, and all these other, and I
Nice.
gave them
Yeah,
all
yeah.
to them. And then one day they just kind of came back and just handed me the box and went, "Oh, I was cleaning out and I found all these books. They're yours. Do you want them back?" And I went, "Okay." And at that period of time, I'd been out of the martial arts for a little while due to kind of illness and like personal life, work, and stuff like that. Like, and I just kind of like didn't have the time to do everything. So, but I was looking to kind of get back. I was missing it, and then this box of books came back, and I went, ah, I wonder does anybody teach JKD in Ireland? And that's how I ended up then meeting and training with Sifu Martin O'Neill up in Lurgan.
Perfect.
With him for 10 years as a private student, and through him started teaching down here in Dublin and Skerries. That was about 15 years ago, and I've gone on since then and worked along. So then in, I'd say 2017, 2016, 2017, maybe even a little bit earlier than that, I met the late Brendan Westwood. Martin had hosted him, and following, I loved his session, loved everything he did in the seminar. And following that, had a bit of a chat. We had a bit of a kind of thing. Then I went to camp the following year. Um, And that kind of spawned, I suddenly went, oh, do Rick Fay, the whole lot. This is where I need to be. This is where I want to be. And then 2018, we became an official branch school, right before
Wow,
COVID.
yeah. Perfect. Oh, yeah, just for COVID. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, literally
Quite
right
a
before
journey
COVID.
then. Yeah,
As
quite a
always in
journey.
business, you know.
Yeah, of course.
You know.
Do you remember the moment then that the martial arts kind of went from this is fun, I enjoy this, to this is kind of who I am now. This is what I want to focus and kind of put all my efforts into, I suppose.
So yeah, it's been in there for a long time. It's always been kind of like it was kind of like a dream I had to kind of I'd love to do that. I'd love to do what Rick Fay does or what you know Rick Young does and all these other people that I've come and met and trained with, and they do it for full time. But it was always that it's in the magazines, it's these people, it's that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
then through joining the MKG, it started to kind of build the momentum, started to kind of build it up and kind of go, right, well, maybe I can do this. The class level started to get up to a point whereby there's a little, like it's the numbers are getting bigger, things are getting kind of like we're expanding it a little bit. You know what, I could try this. And then just
Yeah.
I worked I worked for a lot of different kind of companies, business, software companies, finance companies, banks, etc., collecting money. I was a credit controller
Okay.
for about 20 years. So I did that in the background. I was doing that, and it was just kind of like I'm just not feeling it anymore.
Sure.
So I just
Yeah.
went one day and I just went, nah, I'm done. Just
Done
packed my
now. Yeah.
notes and went, I'm going for it. That was in 2023, and since
Brave
September
move.
2023, I've been doing it as my full-time job. So I get up every
Fantastic.
morning and I dress like this.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. How did you find that initial kind of transition from going to a student into a coach? Do you think you're quite a natural coach, or was it something you really had to work at?
No, I had to work on. I'm not somebody who stands. I'm not somebody who anybody who's met me, you've met me a few times. I'm not the most necessarily outward person straight off the
Okay.
bat. I'm a little bit
Yeah.
kind of. I would consider myself a bit socially awkward, which kind of suits a lot of the students and stuff like that, like as well. Like they kind of
Yeah,
go,
yeah.
okay, I'm a bit like him, or he's a bit like me, or he understands.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit like that. So I find it a little bit. So that bit, I have to take a deep breath every time I go in to do a class or whatever the case it is,
Sure.
just before I step on the stage, so to speak. But once I'm there,
Yeah, yeah.
like I am now, I'm just you just get in, get talking, and you kind of go, right, well, this is what it is. So I consider myself a good teacher, but
Yeah.
it's something I've had to work on. And I think that is the case for everybody. I think anybody who says, oh, I'm just brilliant, off the bat,
Yeah.
is lying to themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head there, where I think you're just always constantly trying to be a better instructor and try and learn more.
You can't turn. It's like anything. It's like being a student in the sense of you can't. The moment you stop studying is the moment you stop learning. And likewise, as a coach, the moment you stop learning and learning from the experiences and learning from your own students that you're teaching, then that's the moment you stop becoming a good teacher, in my opinion.
Yeah,
If you're
exactly.
stale, then you're dead. You're not like there's nothing new happening. So, if you're not trying to advance what you're doing as well and trying to look at other teachers, look at how like people who come to me, like you were over recently just before Christmas,
Mm.
Aaron Davis, Rick Fay, all these other people, that we've hosted or come, or I've gone to workshops, seminars with.
Sure.
I'm not just learning the martial arts from them, I'm watching how they teach it and how they get the information across. And sometimes some people do it better than others, and that's true, but you'll always pick up something. Even
Yeah,
if
and
it's
everyone's
not
different, isn't it?
you know.
Everyone's got a different personality. Everyone's got a different flavour of how they put the thing through. Everyone's got a different
And I know
interest.
that not
Even
everybody can look as good as you and me, Dan. So
well, of course not. No, but we can't set the bar too high, can we? Because it's just unfair to everyone else. So, yeah. What originally pulled you towards JKD then? Obviously, that's what you teach now with the Filipino stuff as well.
Yeah. Initially, it was like, as I said, it was the books. I wouldn't necessarily say I was a big fan of Bruce Lee, and as in the movies. I could watch them. I've seen them. I've watched them quite a few times and seen them, but I wouldn't necessarily have called myself a big Bruce Lee fan. I was never really a big fanboy of his.
Yeah.
So, but it was more simply just, again, a lot of my initial martial arts experience had been through grappling or some form of grappling. So
Okay.
I kind of, that, in the midst of me going from that 10-year-old boy all the way up to, in my, late 20s, early 30s before I started doing JKD, it was a late 20s, yeah, early 30s. The whole MMA thing and all that had started. So the mixing of martial arts, which is something I kind of done, like I'd done a little bit of security work and done bits and pieces, like as every martial artist I think has done at some point.
Dabbled a bit.
So you mix it. You can't have just one side of things. It can't just be, if you want to be able to apply it or anything like that, you have to be able to do both. So that was part of it. So I just said, one thing I really lack is striking part of it, and then in turn, I kind of wanted to learn something that was different. And as there was only one person in Ireland at that present moment teaching it, Sifu Martin, that it was kind of like, well, I need to, maybe I need to explore this a little bit. And then when I went up and trained with him, I did a private lesson with him. And I think I booked an hour or 2 hours, and I think we spent 3 hours doing it. I went home with an entire notebook full of notes. Like we went through the entire beginner curriculum that he had on the first day we were there, and I just went, "Wow, this is amazing!" It's brilliant, and it was, and I just kind of really came back with a buzz on it. It just fit my groove, it just fit who I was and how I moved, and then through that, the Filipino martial arts kind of really, and that was through, we did Martin hosted Daniel and Nero, and then Brendan Westwood, and it was through both of them that the real karate kind of initial kind of spark, kind of like, this thing, because prior to that, we'd pick up the sticks during the sessions or be in the seminars. I had them. I knew Heaven Six. I could do a couple of figure eights. I could do this arm, but it was JKD. It was the Jun Fan arts. It was JKD. But that kind of expanded it and kind of went. And then since then it's become, that's probably a little bit more of what I do than, I
was just about to ask, how it's shifted in terms of that. So obviously you start with the JKD and then now you've moved into doing different forms and different areas of Kali as well. So how did that move on?
Yeah, it's kind of strange because recently I actually have I have a couple of private students and that who specifically asked for JKD, and got them back. But it's very hard not to go, look, this works really well, but if I put two sticks in your hand, that'll get your hand moving better. It's very hard not to kind of, to kind of branch out of it. So I hate to say it, but I've kind of come up with my personal way of teaching JKD through the way of doing, the MKG and all that has to offer. And all the
well, arguably that's the way JKD should be. It's your own personal expression, isn't it? So,
exactly. So I stick to it. I have all the original notes that I got from Martin. I have all the other bits and pieces that are there. So I have a kind of that structure and that curriculum, but I'm not rigid to it. It depends on the person you're training with. And when you're doing it privately, and even in class, we were doing straight lead punching there on last night. So it was it's that's going back to let's just do this. It's quite not something that I don't think I've not seen in any, I've not done it in any seminars for a long time. So I was going to go, let's get into this.
Revisit it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, perfect. How's your let's go with the Kali. So how's your understanding of Kali kind of changed from when you first started? So like you said, you know a bit of Heaven Six, you could swing the sticks around maybe a little bit, could do some figure of eights, things like that. But then now to the point where you're looking at different systems
Flip it
within Kali.
behind.
Yeah, a bit of that stuff, the flashy stuff. But there's so many different styles of the Filipino stuff now, and from different areas of the Philippines. And you've got, your Paquita Tertia, you've got your MKG branch, you've got your Santo Lacoste, you've got, all these kind of derivatives that you're looking at more. I think. I think that's right in saying
Yeah,
through
yeah.
our and things like that.
I think for me, what's kind of expanded is the depth in which, there's so much to explore, but yet they're not necessarily that. Not that they're not different, they are different, but the styles in themselves are that. So there's styles and variations and understanding where the context, I consider I'm quite a martial arts nerd. So I have quite a
Reach.
big library, like quite a big library. I like to read it. I'll be watching the stuff on YouTube when I have a bit of free time, and all those type of things. But it's mostly going in and going through, the why and wherefore and how, as well. So not just understanding like that's I can swing a stick and I can hurt somebody with it. It's what's behind that. Why does Paquita Tertia do things in this way? Why does the Campo Uno Dos Tres work in this way? Why does the Inosanto system do this? So like, example of that would be like the Lamenco system, which I don't study, but yet a lot of what I do is part of the original arts that Ananguru Salite started with. So like you're having this it's understanding where that comes from and the kind of origins of it a little bit. So yeah, it's kind of that to me kind of really kind of that's the kind of bit I think I kind of got from that initial bit with Daniel Linero, and it's expanded through with Coach Aaron Davis and that as well, who I think kind of has a similar kind of like loves doing it, loves the action, same as myself, but yet also what's behind it a little bit. There's a little bit of depth behind why is it we do figure eight? Why do we do Heaven Six? Why do we why do we bring it behind our back? Is it just to look cool, or is there a reason? I don't know. I haven't figured that one out yet, but and then and then again I've been training now with Nathan Featherton of Ramblin' Curran, combat, doing the Irish stick fighting and stuff like that, with him, and that again, his take on that through his experience with the Dog Brothers and stuff like that as well has kind of again expanded the insights into what I do with regard to my Kali and all that as well, because again it's this kind of thing of I'm not trying to make a mix-all at all. It's just kind of going, right, well, okay, sometimes training something else helps you explain the thing that you're doing. So if you're training karate, if you're doing karate, whatever experience or whatever the case it is, and you want to understand, well, how does that movement work when I block, punch, and hit? And you kind of go, right, well, if I parry that and I'm bringing this up here and I'm smacking that, whatever the case it is, then, you're doing formats of Heaven Six or outside guns, whatever the case it is. So looking and exploring, that's why the likes of like the Karate Nerd, Jesse Enkamp and stuff like that, like those type of things, they kind of spark a thing in my head that goes, So then I go off in that tangent, and I have to remember to come back then when I'm teaching my students.
Not go deep down the rabbit hole, and blow the minds. Yeah, definitely. Why is it you train Kali then? Because I've interviewed quite a few people who do kind of Kali, Filipino stuff, and they've all given me a slightly different.
So many double stick fights on the street.
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like you're always carrying around Ninja Turtle style to put out your back.
In the quiet, leafy, little tiny village that I live in. And I I think for me, um, it's the movement. It is
Mm.
really just the movement of it. Again, there's so much depth to it. It's an intellectual kind of thing. Like you have to
Yeah.
be like the reasons why. How do I get from A to B? How do I get to be able to take that? How do I learn this? This combination. Why do I do this? Why am I moving the stick this way? Why does my footwork? You know that that part of it. So it's not just simply just a case of the kind of cognitive, cross lateralization with double sticks. It's also
Sure.
the actual thing of actually having to learn the double sticks, having to move that kind of way. Um, and then, again, there's a cultural thing as well. I just like the whole idea, the same as with the Japanese martial arts I did. I love the whole idea of the samurai and the ninja and all that type of stuff. It's the same with this. It's kind of understanding a little bit more as to why, where, and how, and then putting that into kind of this is how I feel. This is where it works, or this is what it is. But it's just exciting. It just gets me going, you know, as you can
Cool.
tell.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's good. Yeah, it's good though when people have a passion for things. Like, and I think people who do Kali are really passionate about Kali, and it seems to be their thing because they've all got a certain way that their brain works. I think because they want to know, like you said, they want to deep dive. They want to know the history. They want to know the culture. They like the idea that you're going cross brain. They like the idea that you can drop the sticks and then it's going to work your mechanics in terms of your boxing and your self defense. Then you can go into different areas where you go into like the Panatuka, and then you can go into the Dumog, and it's such an all-encompassing art. And I
Well,
think it
that's
was
the
David
thing. I
Maluma
think, yeah, I think
who said
like
that. Yeah.
I remember like within JKD world in one of Bruce's books, he mentions that JKD is kind of like you're working towards that totality of being a martial artist, and I think if there's any art out there that has that prospect of being or offering you the totality, whether or not you train every like within our like the MKG and in the Santo the 12 areas of Kali, if you train every single one of them you would be Jason
Pretty
Bourne.
well
You know what I
rounded.
mean? Like, yeah. But so it's not possible. But yet, if I swing a single stick and I swing like we were doing staff work last night. But
Hmm.
the staff work we're doing is, our double stick stuff. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like cob, moving up and
Yeah,
down, right?
yeah.
And then we're moving in the blocks, and then we're moving in the thing. And then because I wanted them to do, move and get into a left side rather than doing a spinny thing, I bring it up above their head, and we're suddenly blending in a movement from Irish stick fighting, of
Okay.
transferring the stick from one side to the other without having to do all the big fancy spinning because we're in a classroom. But it's that kind of we're still learning that. And then if I took the staff away from people and put two sticks in, they'd still be able to do cob. If I
Still the
took the
movement.
two sticks away from them, they'd still be able to punch. They're still able to
Yeah.
do the levels. They're still able to, three high, one low. It can still be all done. And again, the same with the knife. Like there's no reason why you can't be doing double knife, single knife. You know,
Yeah.
you're using your punyo with the stick, the back of it. Like it's just basically just stabbing it. It's just the fact you've got a longer handle on your knife.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
It's a huge big weight behind it, but it's that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Or even
So
doing it and you're doing your staff work, you're getting the flow for your elbows and all those
yeah, it's
mechanics
all that
from
mechanics of
just that one
moving
kind
and
of thing. So you can
yeah.
just transfer it. You could start your Kali training doing the staff or double sticks and yet expand it into all these other areas just because you've started there. Because there's no difference between the movement of what you're doing. That's my
No,
kind of,
definitely.
you know,
The Irish stick. Hello. The Irish stick fighting. Then, so talk to me a little
Irish.
bit about that because it's never really been on my radar in terms of
No.
what it is, what the function is, what the history of it is.
It's kind of, well, so,
Rosie's very interested.
oh yeah,
She wants to
very
know
interesting.
all about it.
So basically, back now, I'm not going to go into the dates and stuff like that, like, so I haven't got that kind of nerdy about it yet. So we're talking 1800s, maybe a little bit further back, 17, 1800s. There was, for whatever, for various historical reasons, weapons, etc. Similar to Okinawa, like the mythos of karate and stuff like that, like, that, weapons and stuff like that, like swords and all that stuff, were kind of banned in Ireland for various reasons. And so within that, obviously, if you can't carry a sword and you can't, walk around with things like that, but you need a weapon, then obviously a walking stick is your kind of, to use a phrase here, your only man. So,
okay.
So then in turn, then there were groups, tribes, towns, etc. The term used is often a faction. So it's my gang, my town, my end of the town, whatever the case it is. My clan were protecting our, area, our district, our, whiskey, whatever it is, or pints of Guinness, whatever it is.
You're on board with that?
Yeah, and they would go to, basically they would have clashes with other groups. So within that, then there would be, that's where the stick comes in. So it generally tends to be, it's more a group melee kind of art. There's two existing active styles in it at the present moment, like, historical styles, and that's the Antrim style and the Doyle family style. And through Nathan Featherton and, his group, the Rambling Currents Combat, he is an instructor with both systems, so one of the few people who has instructorship under both, and therefore then, he has that kind of mix that, it kind of blends a little bit. Not necessarily, like, he does separate it very well, but it's just a case of kind of being able to move it a little bit like that. And then through that, then we use that traditionally has seen the stick that's used is a walking stick, so it's waist height, more or less, give or take, and it generally has a little bit of a butt at the end of it, like a knob at the end of it. The ones mostly made at the present moment and mostly used are blackthorn, so they have those kind of the ridges along it as well. It's kind of cured and seasoned and whatnot, and it'll hurt you if it hits you, but it's a hard one. So so when we train, we tend to use rattan, to do that, but because it doesn't smash and break and end up with pointy bits all over the place. But yeah, so that's part of it. And then as well, like, from the little bit that I understand, and I'm sure there'll be plenty there that'll correct me, there is obviously an influence from fencing and whatnot in part of it too. So, like, there's a little bit of the kind of, there's similarities in regard to, like, bayonet use and pike use and things like that, which were also used. The pike was a big, combat weapon used in Ireland at that particular point as well. So that there's some crossover in that too. But yeah, it's kind of, and then haven't quite got into it too much, but hopefully starting to with Nathan now, the collar and elbow wrestling as well, which is a what's the word I need to use? It's a revised art in the sense of it did exist. There's documentation going through it, etc., and all that stuff. It is one of the precursors, along with catch can wrestling, to what is now pro wrestling. When it moved to America and stuff like that, like, and obviously the immigration into America. But it's part of that, and it's similar to judo in the sense of it's a collar and elbow grip. It's mostly sweeps and throws. The only thing is, if you lose the grip, you lose your point or you lose the match. The idea is to get the opponent on the floor on the back, but you can't lose your grip. So interesting. You have to keep your hold on to the opponent while you're training. So a lot of the techniques look similar to judo, you know,
Yeah.
in the fact of the sweeps and moves and pulls and things like that. But because you can't lose your grip, you can't change it. You can't sweep your hand underneath or anything like that, like in wrestling or grappling. You have to be able to just keep that steer and move it around. So that's kind of an interesting, from
fun.
kind of
Yeah.
a clinch point of view, you
Great.
know, it's a kind of a good one, you know?
Yeah, super functional. Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Obviously, you've trained in obviously lots of different styles, like you said, going from the judo to the grappling into the striking into the weaponry. What's been one of the most difficult periods, do you think, like in terms of learning or in terms of development for yourself?
Difficult, as in like, you know, just learning in general or specific arts I found the hardest to kind of get into.
Just in general, maybe. Yeah,
Um,
hardest phase of your own development to where you
I
are now.
think one of the hardest things, and from a physical perspective, is kicking. Anything to
Okay.
do with kicking is not. I don't have natural. You know, my genetics didn't give me flexibility in my hips. So,
Not going to
um,
be the next Jean-Claude Van Damme.
yeah, no, not at all, not at all. You know, I have that. You know, use that old phrase. The only time I'm going to kick somebody in the head is when they're on the floor. But
Yeah.
obviously, don't do that. Don't do that, kids. But
Disclaimer.
yeah, it's that would be that from a difficulty point of view. I still work on it at 50, but it's still probably one of the hardest things on hip flexibility and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
but that's from a specific moment thing. But I'd say probably one of the hardest things that I've worked on is I've done some Tai Chi, and I do a little tiny bit of it still with Coach Aaron and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
and I found that really hard. And usually
Physically,
just
emotionally, spiritually,
it's
mentally.
slowing down and relaxing.
Yeah.
So anytime I ever touch hands doing stuff with, we're doing push hands or anything like that, or Hubud, and Guru Rick comes up and does it with me, he's just going, relax, relax.
Get your shoulders
So
down.
you
Chill.
just relax. And to
Yeah.
me, I'm relaxed, but
Mm.
I'm not. Like, I know I'm not, but I know you're training with Guru Rick and you're kind of going like, "Whoa," you know, I
Yeah,
want it to
everything
be
tenses
perfect.
at that
And then
point.
but but yeah, it's slowing it down, relaxing, and actually having that, and you know, it's just yeah, being able to kind of like get the muscles and everything else kind of down to that kind of flow is kind of hard. I do. It's strange. It works. I can. You feel it when you're doing things like Kali or boxing or whatever the case it is. It kind of you're relaxed because you're doing it, and it's just trying to be able to replicate that. Maybe it's a learning thing. You know, while
Yeah.
you're going through that process, I don't do it enough. You got to practice more. But
Sure.
you know, that's probably one of the hardest ones I kind of found. It's just kind of doing
Interesting.
that. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, just that stillness and going from the soft, I suppose, to the hard, and then
Yeah, I don't
reversing.
like again like that. Like I read a lot about, you know, like I go into a lot, like, you know, again, the context Zen and Buddhism and Hinduism and all these type of things. Like I'm into reading all that kind of like stuff and investigating that. But yet, anytime I've gone to any kind of long, you know, like retreats or like that, or I've done anything like that whereby you have to sit there and meditate, I
Hmm.
just can't do it. I just can't get down. But yet, I can get the kind of thing that I feel closer to what's explained in those kind of things when I'm moving, which
Okay, yeah. So moving meditation
and
rather than a still meditation, it's a moving meditation for you.
yeah, that's why I refer to my Kali when I do Karenza. So if
Hmm.
anybody ever watches the Karenza movies or videos that I post up from time to time, there's not that many of them. um, and there, I refer to that sometimes as moving towards stillness, in the sense that
Yeah.
that's my movement. So when I'm in that flow of doing it, whatever it is, you know, I'm just moving, but trying to move. I try to have a purpose, but I'm not worried about the purpose. So if I make a mistake, I'm sure like I'm moving. I'm not, you know, I just need to bring my stick back or
Doesn't
quiet
matter.
myself, or my brain has a momentary pause. Well, then, oh, what's, you know, and then
So what?
afterwards go, why did that pause? And I go, ah, it
Hmm.
doesn't matter, you know, carry on, it's done, you know,
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
that's the thing. get rid of the stress, get rid of the anxiety, just kind of like switch off for a bit, 5, 10 minutes, whatever the case it is, swing a stick, do some
Perfect.
shadow boxing, you know,
Yeah,
whatever,
excellent.
you know.
Let's talk about the MKG then, because obviously you run MKG North Dublin.
The only
Minnesota
branch in
College,
Ireland at the present moment.
the only branch in Ireland. There you go. So obviously headed up by Guru Rick. What was your first experience like training with Guru Rick, and what kind of attracted you to then going down the MKG route?
As I said, I first was introduced to the MKG method through the seminar with Brendan Westwood
Yeah.
that Martin hosted. Um, and Brendan was just such a nice guy, but also the whole methodology, the way he, kind of went through the different arts. Because he went through from JKD, Muay Thai, Kali, he went through quite a lot in that, 2, 3, 4 hour session.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like but he linked it all together and it flowed.
Yes.
And I was kind of like, oh, okay, all right. And so that was kind of the initial spark. And obviously I'd seen some of the, old school videos of Guru Rick. I think I had a couple of his instructional videos. I still have them. And, but I, kind of not really kind of looked at them and that kind of thing. Because maybe it was at that time a little bit above me, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Or I felt
Yeah, yeah.
it was a little bit above me. So then going to the camp was a big revelation for me in the sense of the number of people that were there.
Yeah.
I'm suddenly there training with the likes, like with, Phil Norman was there, Mick Tully, there was a whole load of people and other people that you've probably had in here that I'm forgetting that, were there. Guru Rick was there, and you're just kind of going like, these are people I've read about, watched on YouTube or listened to their podcasts or whatever the case it was, and suddenly going like, this is, this is amazing. I'm here. And also they're kind of going like, hey, how you doing? I'm getting on with it and helping out and training. And everybody else there was so great. So it really was that kind of family ethos and that kind of like, it doesn't matter where you are, what level. Yes, there are more experienced martial artists there. There are more talented martial artists there, all that type of stuff. But it was just that kind of acceptance of coming in. Like I traveled over, Coach Courtney, who assists in all my classes and training partner, etc. here, for years. She traveled over and she'd only been training 6 months with me at that point. So when she came over and did that, and again like that too, that kind of experience of kind of going, wow, it was just kind of such a change. So we did that and kind of slowly, kind of built up. I did Phil Norman's kind of introduction instructors course in Bournemouth a couple of years ago with like soon after that as well, and hung out with Lee Taylor and stuff like that. Like, and again, you're just kind of like, and again, I wouldn't have known Lee before that. I wouldn't have known all these other people, before that. Got to kind of expand it a little bit more. Then went back, and then I think, before I did that, I actually went and trained. Before I did the weekend with Phil, I did my first private lesson with Aaron.
Cool.
And that again was kind of like, this is just a different kind of level. So I was just kind of like, things were just kind of building up. And then just unfortunately before Sifu Brandon passed away, it was I'd kind of like gone, I think I need to go beyond this. So I'd gotten my instructorship, my first initial instructorships, etc., in the organization, and I kind of wanted to start kind of going a little bit further and further and further into it. So so he kind of went, look, right, so I said, well, I'm going to move almost exclusively to doing this, to work towards becoming a branch school. And then after that, then we had had a couple of more discussions. He passed, had discussions with, with Rick and Colton and Aaron and other people were going like, James, do it. Like, you'd be the best thing you did. And ultimately it has. Like the support you get from everybody as a branch school, the regularity of the instructor training that's now set up, the online program, a whole lot. Like it's a package there to support the instructors, and it's a package there to support the school. Whether or not you want to become a full branch or not, I think if you're in the program and you're following it, or at least, and you're following it to whatever level you want to do, but you're getting it. The support you're going to get, is outstanding. So
second to none.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But yeah, so that's really kind of what we kind of did. So it didn't make a big difference from well, actually, in fact, one of the big things it did do was COVID. So when COVID hit, the week everybody went into lockdown all over the world, the MKG went online. And
I remember it well, yeah.
And straight away, then it was kind of case of, right, go online and, you get on, and James, you need to do this as well. Now, I would never have used Zoom, would never have thought about teaching anybody online, but there I am doing it. And, so we ran all our classes, same timetable almost, kept going. Yeah. Courtney did some early, mid-morning PE classes with the Tiny Tots and stuff like that, the Titans, as they became, and they, that expanded as well. We got opportunity to teach and train on the international classes as well, and teach, other people. So, and because everybody was locked in, like you were standing there, I'm teaching a class to not just, my students, but I'm teaching it to Kurt Cornwell and John Carter and, Guru Rick be on it sometimes. Maybe, there'd be a few others like Phil, I think, sat on one of them one time, and Woody and and all these type of people, and Aaron and yourself or whatever. There was loads of people there, and you just kind of go, right, I'm doing this, and they're seeing me because I was like then the youngest branch in the whole MKG. We literally just started, and there I am. I'm getting exposure to these, to the point whereby when I finally got to Minneapolis in 2023, I went over. Guru Dan they were hosting Guru Dan. So I went over for the whole week before the seminar, the weekend with Guru Dan. And I stayed there, and I basically just got up in the morning, went to the gym, hung out in the gym, actually got to help working in the gym for a little bit, getting through, trying to figure out how things work and all that, just to kind of see what it was like. And I remember two things happened in that. Number one, I stood in the headquarters going, this is my dream. I want to do this. I want to get up every morning, walk in and not put on shoes for the day. Even if I might put on flip-flops and go into the toilet, but other than that, so that's still a dream. That's still a work in progress, but we'll get there. The other part was then I got to teach one of the classes at the MKG, which was really cool. But before I got to teach the class, I'm standing there in the gym, I'm warming up, I'm getting ready. The class before the one that I was going to teach was a JKG class. Kurt Cornwell was teaching that. And
nice.
He walks in the back door of the gym, and I'm just standing there, and he just kind of carries on. And then he teaches his class, and I jump in. It was a brilliant class. And at the end of the class, he goes, and I went up and I went, thanks very much. It was great to, and to see you in person. And he went, we've never met in person. He said, I just walked in, saw you warming up and went, oh, that's just James. Because that was like the COVID thing, like you just log on and there's people moving and you just kind of go, oh, that's James, And I was kind of like, wow, so like it kind of showed me the scope of what's possible, as well as, like this is what that community is all about. Like it's just kind of, and I couldn't have been looked after more, when we were over there as well. Like, it was great, so.
Fantastic. Where's your own kind of development going then now into 2026 or even into 2027, and then in the next few years, where do you want to be? Like you kind of mentioned a full-time school there, maybe, but in terms
Yeah,
of your own
so
personal
that's yeah.
development as
So
well.
from a business perspective,
Mm.
that's the goal, the not so long term goal, but it's the future goal is to have our own facility and to be able to function within that, because there's a lot you can do. At the moment, we rent a hall, which is great, and we get great support from the community centre, but it's it's still working within the timetable of what they can provide. So
Sure,
I'd
yeah,
like to
yeah,
be able to expand it and have that own facility, not to have to load my car and bring stuff up and down, to have it all there, be
yeah,
able to
definitely.
run it and all that stuff. So that
Yeah, I
from
don't
that
miss.
perspective, logistically, it makes sense to do it. But also just to kind of have a home, for it.
Yeah,
I'd like to expand the MKG ethos a little bit in Ireland, and what we do within JKD and Cali and stuff like that. Like,
cool.
so from a personal perspective, is to try and build up that thing of maybe getting out there, doing some more workshops with people,
Yeah,
doing some seminars and things like that as well. Not necessarily, not to make money out of them, but to, kind of share that kind of thing that, this is here. We're very much, the usual, Ireland's a big boxing, country,
yeah,
big, it does have its grappling. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is big. MMA is big as well in the sense of, but it's more Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I think, to be honest with you.
cool.
Kickboxing. There's a lot of great martial artists in this country. Huge, like really, really great martial artists. But we're really bad, I think, to a certain extent, of um, showing that to everybody else. So for a long time now, it's been a case whereby people come and they kind of go like, oh, we spoke about this when you were over. Come and do a seminar with you, and you kind of go, okay, yeah, but what do they have to offer me, and what
Yeah,
do they have to offer my students? I have all
yeah,
this wealth of knowledge and all this wealth of kind of thing. Do I need that, or is it a case whereby maybe I could come to you and do it?
yeah,
Not
yeah,
me personally. I know I will be, but
yeah. You want to share?
who
Yeah, or this
cares?
year.
You be coming back to me. But it's that kind of thing of sharing that kind of knowledge and whatnot, and expanding that. But that's just me personally. From a so yeah, so to expand it, get the students, get the school going properly, in the sense of it being a real, feel like a real professional, full-time gym school, that type of thing. Um,
Yeah,
that would be a big goal of mine. The other thing then, from a personal perspective, is I'm in the process of completing my De Campo into those stress to try and get instructorship with that. So we'll
great,
hopefully finish that within the next year, 18 months. Um,
perfect.
from an MKG perspective, at this present moment, we're the only school, like I said, we're the only branch in Ireland, but also means then that we have, I'm the only level two. Courtney's, the only woman level one in Ireland. We have Terry Donnelly as well,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
his elite taekwondo and stuff like that is also part of it. Barry Bell up the north,
yeah,
and things like that. Like, so we have this kind of, group that I'd like to kind of expand, and the opportunities there. That's the thing. I think I'm very much in favor of promoting and getting people who are right and want to do it and want to put the work in to get
yeah,
to the same level that I'm at. I
yeah,
felt when I was for a long time, I kind of sat there kind of not going, oh, I didn't realize I could actually go to Edinburgh and train with Rick Young.
yeah,
I didn't know I could fly to Minneapolis and just go into the gym and train,
yeah.
you
Just
know?
got to book it and do
I
it.
didn't know I could stand there or sit there and have a conversation with Guru Rick Fay,
Yeah,
and or other similar people, and you're in your brain, you're kind of going, these are celebrities, these are people that, like, they are, they are definitely, I still hold them in awe and respect them 100%, but it's just that kind of thing. You're kind of going, well, you could do it too. Any of my students could be there, and
yeah,
I'm hopeful that at some point I will be sunning myself on a beach in Thailand whilst my students are running my school and making me loads of money. That's ultimately my goal.
That's the dream. That is the dream. Yeah, but that's a good position to be in. Like I did the same last year. I went to Thailand for 2 weeks, and
Yeah,
then the academy ran as it usually does, which is great because you've got the
yeah.
staff
It's
there and
like
they know what
when
they're doing.
things
And
like that, and that's where like yeah, when things like that happen, you suddenly realize that you've got like a good group. Like it's the same when I was in
exactly.
Italy. When we were in
Yeah.
Italy, it's the same. Courtney and Darren and that, the crew here ran those classes. The same when I was in Fort
While we
David.
sat and drank wine,
Yeah,
perfect.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. That's 100%. It was so hard, so hard, so hard.
Yeah, it was. It was
Um,
tricky. Sorry, Courtney.
yeah. She doesn't drink wine. She drinks rum. So it's
Nah,
a, but yeah, yeah. So it's that kind of thing, and kind of expanded it. Like I have a few things in regard to one of my big ethoses, and one of the big things that we have within our classes again is that idea of it doesn't matter who you are or what you are or how you move or anything like that, whatever challenges you have, there's something within what we teach
yeah,
and something within what we do that will suit and help and build you up. It's one of the best things we have is when we get, real positive feedback from people going, you know, I had this thing, or I was never able to, or a parent coming up and going like real challenges doing, like with
yeah,
something physically or meant, like school or something, and they're suddenly changing that. They've come out of their shell, they've done all that type of stuff, or
yeah,
whatever the case it is. Having seeing somebody who at the start couldn't do a forward roll, suddenly doing a perfect forward roll, like as if they're rolling downhill.
yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like, or doing complex stick work. Like it's great watching. Um, Again, they wouldn't be my forte, but I mean, like I love training with them and all that stuff, and love having them. But I'm not the expert in teaching really younger kids. That would
Yeah,
be Coach Courtney.
Courtney.
That would be
Yeah,
Courtney's forte. She's trained. She's got all that.
hmm,
She's got all the expertise and everything in regard to that.
yeah,
But I love how even even I have been able to get them, to I've been surprised about what I throw at them to what they'll do.
sure, yeah, yeah,
From heaven six, 4 counts, 18 counts, all this type of stuff. They'll just absorb it, take it in, and do it. And to me, that's just kind of like, oh my, I wish I started when I was 4.
yeah.
You
That's
know,
it. Yeah,
like what are
100%. We
what
should
are
have done
these
this
guys
when I
going
was
to be
four,
like when
five.
they're like 14, when they're
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know
It's easy
24,
to do.
whatever the case it is. Like they'll be immense. And it builds them up. It builds them all up. No matter what level they're at, no matter what age these are, adults, whatever. Just that confidence of kind of going like, no, it's something to do. And we have one or two of the ladies that do our kickboxing classes, and I was speaking to one there a little while ago, and I was kind of saying like she's been with us for a while, and I was going, oh,
Hmm.
you seem to enjoy the classes you're here. And she said, yeah. She said, I would never. She came because her friend bullied her into coming. Her
Nice. Yeah,
friend has since left, and she stayed,
yeah,
and she continually trains, and you kind of go like, like, and I never, this was not something that was ever on my radar. But it just
great.
comes down. I can get away from everything else I do. And it's just so different. And the movement and everything else is just so different. Come in, bash the pads, kick the pads, all that type of stuff. And it's, yeah. So that's
What it
that.
is. Perfect. James, thank you very much. I appreciate it, my
No problem at
friend.
all.
I will see you again in Dublin at the end of the year, and then you're coming over to
Yep.
the UK and coming and
Yeah.
teaching a
Yeah.
seminar at
I'll
mine,
be
aren't you, as
visiting
well, at some point?
June
We'll get a
in
date booked
sometime,
in.
date to be confirmed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. That'd be really cool. Yeah, we'll get a date booked in. It'd be good to
Yeah.
see
I
you.
might show you some
And then
Irish stick fighting.
definitely do. Yeah, I'd like to see some for sure. James, thank you so much for your
No
time,
problem
as
at all. Thank you
always.
very much for
Thanks for
that.
running a cool school,
Appreciate
and
it
I
as
appreciate it,
always.
buddy. No
Yeah,
problem.
very
All
good.
right. Cheers, buddy. We'll catch up soon. Thanks.